We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Beis and Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 32b. The Gemara here is discussing a machlokus between Rebbe and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. Will a chaver separate truma not min hamukaf? Let's say the produce is not nearby. Normally they don't do that, but in this case, will they do that in order to ensure that an am ha'aretz doesn't eat something that's not kosher? So Rebbe holds also chaver ochel ve'enot tzarech la'aser. This chaver who overhears this whole discussion between the chaver and am ha'aretz, that's the case on the previous amud. So this chaver, he can eat it. He doesn't need to worry about it. Devadai isurei ma'aser hu chaver kamoy love, because the first chaver, the one who's giving out, who's releasing his produce, he for sure took off the proper meiser. So there's no doubt about it. He's even going to take off the meiser that's not nearby from meiser, from food that's not nearby. He's going to take off the meisers properly because he does not want this am ha'aretz that he's giving the food to sin by eating food that hasn't been taken off, that hasn't been fixed properly. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says no, lo yochal. This chaver who overhears this whole thing, he should not eat it ad sheyaser until he takes off the full meisers as if nothing's been taken off. Because chaverim will not take off truma if it's not nearby. So even though he's giving this over to the am ha'aretz, and maybe the am ha'aretz is going to eat it and not fix it properly, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to violate this minor isser of taking off truma from produce that's not nearby. V'yamar le Rebbe, and Rebbe says back to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, to his father, Mutov sheyechshedu chaverim litram shalom and amuka ve'al yachilu le'am ha'aretz tevolim. It makes more sense that we should suspect that the chaverim will take off truma from produce that's not nearby, rather than feed am ha'aretz food that's tevel. That would not make sense. They'd certainly do anything they can to avoid that. What is the machlokus over here? But what is the point of contention between Rebbe and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel? Rebbe holds nicholei lechaver deliavid hu isura kalila. Rebbe holds that a chaver would prefer to himself violate a small isser in order to make sure that the am ha'aretz doesn't do a big isser. That's according to Rebbe. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, a chaver would rather allow an am ha'aretz to commit a big isser, but he himself wants to avoid, even if it's just a small isser, he wants to avoid it. So it's just a question between Rebbe and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. The nekudas hamachlokas is, what will a chaver do? Does a chaver prefer to just avoid isser himself and doesn't really care if the consequence is that a big isser is going to be violated by an am ha'aretz, or no, the other way around? He's more concerned with the big isser not being violated by the am ha'aretz, and he'd be willing to do a small isser himself in order to make sure that the am ha'aretz does not commit a big isser. That's the machlokas between Rebbe and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. The Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Nasnu be'ilon l'mala me'asar tvachim. Let's say you put your Eruv, he puts his Eruv in a tree above 10 tvachim from the ground. Ein Eruvo Eruv, that's not going to be a good Eruv. Lamata me'asar tvachim, but if it's beneath 10 tvachim, within 10 tvachim of the ground on this tree, Eruva Eruv, that is a good Eruv. Nasnu bebor, if he puts his Eruv in a pit, afilu amak me'ama, even if it is 100 amos deep, Eruvo Eruv, that is going to be a good Eruv. All of this will be explained in the Gemara. But the basic idea is that when it's above 10 tfachim, so it has a status of a Rosh Hayachid, because we're assuming that the tree is 4 tfachim wide and it's above 10 tfachim high. So then it's in Rosh Hayachid, and if he's down below, he's in Rosh Hashanah. So his Eruv is in a different area, in an area where he can't carry it. He can't carry it from Rosh Hayachid to Rosh Hashanah. That's the basic idea. That's the basic idea of how this works. Gemara here explains as follows: Yosef, Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Asi, Rava bar Nasan. So Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Asi, and Rava bar Nasan were sitting. V'Yosef Rav Nachman Gabai, Rav Nachman was sitting by them. V'Yasvi v'Ko Amri, and they were sitting and they were saying, they were analyzing this Mishnah, trying to understand what's going on. Hi Elon dekoi heicha. Where is this tree? Ilema dekoi b'Rosh Hayachid. If the tree is in a Rosh Hayachid, so it's in Rosh Hayachid, down below is Rosh Hayachid, the tree is Rosh Hayachid. Mali lamala, mali lamata. What's the difference where you put this Eruv? Rosh Hayachid, oh, la'ad l'rakia. The general rule is Rosh Hayachid goes up to the heavens, so it's all in Rosh Hayachid, so who cares where you put it? He can easily access this Eruv wherever he puts it on the tree, whether he puts it above 10 tefachim, below 10 tefachim, it shouldn't make any difference. So that cannot be the case. So rather the tree is sitting in Rosh Hashanah, as I mentioned when we concluded the Mishnah. So the Gemara now says, the Miskaven Lishvos Heicha. Where does he want his Shvisa to be? Where is his residence for Shabbos? Is his residence where the food is up there in the tree, or is his residence down below? He happens to be putting the fruit up there. So Ilema diniskavin lishvos lamala. If his kavana is that his residence is up in the top of the tree, What's the difference if it's 10 tvachim high, more than 10 tvachim high, less than 10 tvachim high? It doesn't matter. He is where the Eruv is. So who cares? That can't be going on over here. That can't be what's going on. Obviously, the case has to be, he's thinking that his shvisa, his house, his residence, is at the bottom of the tree, and it happens to be he puts the food in the tree. So that is going to be a question where he puts it. So the Gemara asks, though, but who cares about whether you can access the food, no matter where you put it in the tree or using a tree on Shabbos? Isn't that an Isser D'Rabbanan just to use a tree? So the Gemara says, Liolam dekai b'Rishas Harabim. The case is, it is in Rishas Harabim, as we said. V'niskavein lishvos lamata, and his residence is down below. That is the case, as we said. But we ask, so what's the difference whether it's above 10 tvachim, below 10 tvachim? You're still using a tree anyway. It's an Isser D'Rabbanan. The Rebbe, this Mishnah follows Rebbe. The Amar Rebbe holds kol davar shumi shum shavus. Anything that's an Isser D'Rabbanan, lo gazru ala bein hashmashas. There is no problem with doing that bein hashmashas. So according to Rebbe, Isurei D'Rabbanan are not prohibited bein hashmashas on Shabbos, and it's at bein hashmashas that the Eruv takes effect. That's when the kinyan happens. So therefore, if it's below 10 tvachim, it's only an Isser D'Rabbanan, it's not an issue. But if it's above 10 tvachim, he's below in Rishas Harabim. His residence is below in Rishas Harabim. The thing is above 10 tvachim, so it's in Rishas HaYachid. The tree is considered Rishas HaYachid above 10 tvachim. So that's already Nisr Doraisa. That's going to be a problem at Bein Hashmashas. Rashi over here says, first of all, when he takes it, he's using the tree. Why should it be a good Eruv even below 10? Using a tree is an Isser D'Rabbanan. This is a Mishnah in Meseches Beitza. Rashi here points out they could have asked a different question. If you think about it, if the tree is 4 tvachim wide, so below 10 tvachim is going to be considered a karmelis. That's also an Isser D'Rabbanan. What do you need to have the Isser D'Rabbanan of using the tree? The Gemara could have asked, it's an Isser D'Rabbanan of carrying from a karmelis to a Rishas HaYachid. Elakevon de hashvus, since they're both Isurei D'Rabbanan, chadaminayu nakat. Just happens to be, we just choose one of them. But they could have asked the same question that it's a karmelis. Bein hashmashos shishas kanias erev. Bein hashmashos is the time that the erev takes effect. V'kevon dahi shaita motzi shakale nimtza suda haruuya lo ba'usasha v'sula. As long as he can take it at that time, it's considered a meal that's fitting, and there's no problem. Lo gazer ola bein hashmashas tekevin de bein hashmashas sveiku u'shvus d'Rabbanan hu lo gazer. There's no gezerah d'Rabbanan during bein hashmashas because bein hashmashas itself is only d'Rabbanan. It's only a suffix. So since bein hashmashas itself is only a suffix, therefore shvus d'Rabbanan they didn't make a decree on shvus mi'Rabbanans during bein hashmashas. So the Gemara now says, Amar Luhu Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman heard this whole conversation. This was a conversation between Rav Echia bar Abba, Rabbi Yassi, and Rav bar Nosson. Rav Nachman was the one sitting there. Rav Nachman said to them, Yasher, that is correct. What you're saying is true. That's exactly how you should interpret the Mishnah. V'chein Amar Shmuel. That's how Shmuel interpreted the Mishnah. Amrulay, they said back to him, Pasrisu ba kuli hai. Did you guys analyze this Mishnah to such an extent? That's a big analysis that you did. The Gemara now interrupts and says, what kind of question is that? Inunami hachi kapasruba. What are you talking about? They themselves have just analyzed it. What do they say? They're in wonder that Rav Nachman and Shmuel would analyze the Mishnah in the same way that they just analyzed it. What kind of question is that? Ela hachi amrule. Here's what they were saying to him. Kavisule beGemara. Were you koveya this as part of the Gemara, as part of the tradition? Did you make this an official psak, an official position in terms of learning the Mishnah? Amar Luhu, he said to them, yes, it is an official way of learning the Mishnah. It's marnami, and it was learned in a statement manner as follows. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Hacha be'ilan ha'omid b'Rishas Harabim maskinon. Here the case is the tree is standing in Rishas Harabim. Gavoa asara v'rochav arba. It is 10 high and it is 4 wide. V'niskavin lishvos lamata. He has kavona to make his residence at the foot of the tree at the bottom. The Rebbe here in the Mishnah follows Rebbe. Damar kol davar shum mishum shavus lo gazru ala bein hashmashas. Rebbe says anything that's a shvus, anything that's an Isser D'Rabbanan on Shabbos is not a problem at bein hashmashas. Now the Gemara brings some qualifications to this case. Amar Rava says, Lo shanu ela be'ilan ha'omed chutz le'ibura shel ir. This entire discussion is only true by a tree that is outside the perimeter of the city. However, aval ilan ha'omed besochi bura shalir. If you have a tree within the perimeter of a city, afilu lamala me'asara. Even if you put the eruv above 10 tefachim, harez the eruv. That's an eruv. Demasa command demalia damya. We apply a principle that the city is like it's entirely filled up. Basically, it goes up to the rakia, and there's no problem over there at all. You're considered, even if you're in the Rishas Harabim inside the city, and the tree is considered Rishas HaYachid, but we apply this principle that the city is as if it's all filled up and it's all one Rishas. Gemara says, says, if that's the case, chutz libura shalir nami, even if it's outside the perimeter of the city, kevon dama Rava hanosei eruvo yesh lo arba amos. Since Rava says that wherever you put the eruv, you get daled amos, that entire area becomes the residence. Hava lo rishus hayachid. So in terms of hilchas techumin, the whole daled amos should be rishus hayachid anyway, even if you put your eruv in a tree that's in rishus harabim or rishus hayachid olad l'rakia. Let's apply the same principle that rishus hayachid goes up to the rakia. So this, if you're willing to have a principle of masa command damalia damia, that a city is like it's filled up, it's ola ad l'rakia. We'll see Rashi a little how he describes it. You should have the same principle anytime you make an erev tchum, because you have daled amos. So the Gemara answers for this. Amar Rav Yitzchak Breder Mesharshia. Rav Yitzchak, the son of Rav Mesharshia, answers, Hacha be'ilan hanota chutz la'arba amos askin. You're correct. You're going to have to say the tree over here extends outside of arba amos. So his residence is at the foot of the tree. Where he placed the eruv is on a branch that is outside the arba amos. So you can't use the principle of daled amos and say ola ad l'rakia. You have to ask whether or not he can retrieve the eruv from where his residence is, and if the eruv is in Rosh Hashanah and he's making his residence below in the Rosh Hashanah, it's going to be a problem. Rashi over here explains, Avol be'ilan. Actually, let's back up to the Rashi about Ibura Shalir. What's Ibura Shalir? What's the perimeter of a city? Kol bayis sheyeshno besoch shivim ama v'shirayim l'ir. Like we said, any house that's within 70 amos and a little bit within the city, close to the city, kari Ibura Shalir. That's the perimeter of the city. So the city, any house that's within that distance from the edge of the city, extends the city to that point. Bepera ketzad ma'avrin. That's going to be discussed later on. Avol be'ilan ha'omed besoch Ibura Shalir. But if you have a tree within the city, kagon shayo ir besoch alpayim. Let's say, for example, there's a city within 2,000 amos of his city. So really, he's putting the eruv tchumin nearby another city. He wants to go another 2,000. He puts his eruv inside the city. So there's a city nearby. He puts his eruv within the city. It's in a tree that's within the bounds of the city. It's still an eruv. Since the city is filled with a settlement, mechitzos and walls, it's not open. It's not open to the public. It's not revealed. We view it as if it's filled with dirt. You might as well say that he was having his residence above 10 tvachim. Rashi here says, even though technically speaking he can't get to this eruv, because if his residence is in Rosh Hashanah and the eruv is in Rosh Hashanah, we don't really apply this rule that a city's like it's filled up to allow you to carry from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, or vice versa. The Ilan is Rosh Hashanah, and where he is Rosh Hashanah. We just view it as if his residence is above 10 tvachim. As if he wanted to make a shvisa up above where the eruv is, and it works. That's how Rashi understands the idea of filling the city. And then the Gemara said, well, you should apply Dalet Amos. In this parak we're going to say later on, the Kotani Masnis and Eno Erev, let's say it rolled outside the Tchum, we say it's not a good Erev. Rava says, Lo shanu ela sheniskalgal chutz l'tchum arba amos. That's true if it rolls outside the Tchum 4 amos. Avol toch arba amos, but as long as you're within 4 amos, hanosin es eruvo yesh lo arba amos. Wherever you put your Erev, you get 4 amos from there. Kilomar arba amos shesvivav havelei kimukafos mechitzos. The rule is, wherever the Erev is, 4 amos are surrounding that. It's as if there's walls there. For example, if a person would put his eruv in a house that's partially within the tchum and partially outside the tchum, he gets the entire house and then in another 2,000 amos in every direction. Because the whole house is considered as tchum. We said people who live in a large city can walk the entire small city. All 4 amos surrounding the eruv are considered like a house. And he can then carry from outside the tchum to within the tchum. You see that according to Rava, that Dalet Amos area is considered as if it's a Rosh Hashanah. Even if the eruv itself, the food itself, is above 10 tvachim, and it should all be considered Rosh Hashanah. And again, Rashi qualifies that this is only a Rosh Hashanah for Hilchas Eruv Tchumen. It's not really Rosh Hashanah. It's not a real Rosh Hashanah. That he's allowed to carry from the tree to this area to where he is below, lahasam to where he is below the tree. There's no real mechitzas. But in terms terms of the halacha that he needs to be where his Eruv is, havichad reshus, should be considered one reshus. Domya denosen bibura shalir, similar to the case where you put it within the area, the bounds of the city. Techazile Rava command demalia. Rava has this principle of command demalia, and the Gemara finally says you're right. If it's within Arba Amos, it wouldn't be a problem. But be'ilan shenofo nota chutz la'Arba Amos. The case here, the branch extends outside of Arba Amos, shosofa tchum, which is outside the tchum. V'niach eruva benofo chutz la'Dal Amos. The Eruv is now put in the branches outside of Dalet Amos, so therefore it's impossible to apply this rule of Dalet Amos in order to save this guy. We'll continue this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph.